Perfect. I'm going to call the City Council meeting to order for September 24th, 2025. It was scheduled to be 8 p.m. or directly following the General Committee meeting. There's no student mayor, confirmation, awards, recognition reports, deputations, tax applications, communications committee reports, or deferred business. So I'm going to go to a direct motion without notice. And that is from Deputy Mayor Thompson. So Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Harvey. Motion without notice, automated speed enforcement program that pursuant to section 7.1 of the bylaw 2019-100 as amended. Permission to be granted to introduce a motion without notice concerning the automated speed enforcement program.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Harvey, that a motion without notice automated speed enforcement program that pursuant to section 7.1 of the procedural bylaw 2019-100 as amended, permission be granted to introduce a motion without notice concerning the automated speed enforcement program. As this is the motion without notice bylaw, there's no debate or questions on the matter. So I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? And it carries. And I'll go to Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Harvey, that staff be directed to move towards pausing out the automated speed enforcement program with the end date of December 31st, 2025, unless otherwise directed by the province of Ontario, and that the notwithstanding the procurement bylaw, staff be authorized to negotiate agreements to implement the red light camera program in the City of Barrie based on the best of value to the city and report back to General Committee prior to executing of any agreement dealing cost, logistics, and timing of the program, and that funding for the program come from the ASE reserves, and that staff and Development Service Department continue to explore other traffic calming measures that could be installed throughout the city and report back to community safety with options, and that correspondence be sent to the provincial government requesting funding to assist with these additional traffic calming measures. Sorry about that.
No problem. It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson and seconded by Councillor Harvey. This is automated speed enforcement program. That staff be directed to move towards phasing out the automated speed enforcement program with an end date of December 31st, 2025, unless otherwise directed by the province of Ontario. And that notwithstanding the procurement bylaw, staff be authorized to negotiate agreements to implement a red light camera program in the City of Barrie based on evaluation of best value to the city and report back to General Committee prior to execution of an agreement detailing cost, logistics, timing of the program, the funding for this program come from the ASE reserve. See, Deputy Mayor, you're not the only one. That staff and the Development Services Department continue to explore other traffic calming measures that could be installed throughout the city and report back to the Community Safety Committee with options, and the correspondence be sent to the provincial government requesting funding to assist with these additional traffic calming measures. That's on the floor. Deputy Mayor, would you like the floor?
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I'll be very brief. I think everybody has seen what has transpired within the media and stuff in regards to the direction the province is taking. And this is a little bit tough, but understanding the reason why that I feel that we should do it to implement another safety measure in the red light cameras, and I believe it was Councillor Harvey and Councillor Morales that have been, asking staff for reporting on it and, the logistics on how we can move forward with it. So, speeding up that process, but losing this one, and, and I think we've seen in the media that there's been some, bad players on how they've rolled out this program in other municipalities. And, I'm happy that we didn't do that. We said what we were going to do. We put them in places of only in school zones, and data was presented to council from staff that they were working. But the problem is some people in other municipalities have taken that as an opportunity to fill the coffers of taxpayers. And the problem is, even though Barrie was doing everything we set out to do, I think some of it is we've lost public trust. And I think we've seen that with, the cameras being installed, the lights being covered and stuff, which was no fault of ours or our staff's. It's in the Highway Traffic Act, and we abided by the rules set out. And I just think we need to position the city, if there is funding, has been communicated by the Premier, that he would help supply funding for roundabouts, speed bumps, lights, different measures. I know that he's used, other places he's been, that they implement certain things and certain measures in school zones. So I just think that it's in the best interest of the city to look at opportunity of working relationship with our provincial government, and hopefully that we're made whole on some of the neat things we're doing around Barrie with staff on the traffic calming measures.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any other comments, questions? I got Councillor Hamilton, then I've got Councillor Harris, then I've got Councillor Corser, and then I've got Councillor Rima.
Thank you, and through you, Mayor Nettle. I do agree. I mean, I think we've all read the media right now that there are some municipalities that are using the cameras as revenue-generating tools, and I agree, that's problematic. To me, it's the implementation of the program that's problematic as opposed to the cameras themselves, though. So just a couple questions for staff. I know we were presented early on with data when the first couple of cameras were rolled out, and they did show that they had the intended effect of slowing residents down. Has data been consistent as we've deployed cameras in other areas? Is that consistent data that we're getting that they are proving effective and having the intended impact on slowing drivers?
Through you, Mayor Nettle, to Councillor Hamilton, yes, we continue to see that type of behavior, that when the cameras are there, the speed is reduced, and even after the cameras leave, the speed still is lower than prior to the camera being there in the first place.
Okay. And then just a follow-up, if I may, are there standard thresholds across the province that are used to determine when tickets are issued?
Through you, Mayor Nettle, to Councillor Hamilton. Yes, there's standard thresholds across the province. The majority of the municipalities are very consistent in those thresholds that we apply.
And from what I'm reading in the media, though, there's some municipalities that have determined lower thresholds, so it seems. So that limit of when someone gets a ticket, whether it's 10 over, 15 over, or whatever it is, it may be consistent in the majority of municipalities, but what I understand is that some municipalities have lowered that threshold where you're driving 5 kilometers over and you're getting a ticket. Is that correct?
Through Mayor Nettle to Councillor Hamilton, yes, that is correct.
And is it up to us, sorry, through you, Mayor Nettle, is it up to us to make that threshold public? Like, are we allowed to do that? Or is there legislation that prohibits a municipality from making that threshold public?
Given the threshold is a law enforcement measure, we're not able to make that public.
Sorry, given I didn't hear the end
Sorry,
of that.
my apologies. Through Mayor Nettle to you, Councillor Hamilton. Given that the threshold is a law enforcement measure, we do not make that public.
Okay, but we could. I just want to be really clear. I just want to understand. We could, and we have decided not to.
We can't make it public. No.
We cannot make it public. No. Okay. And have we heard anything back when we did put pressure on government in terms of taking the coverings off the flashing lights to, again, promote transparency, that cameras are there, to, again, encourage people to slow down? We never heard back from that, I don't think.
Sorry, was that the letter we sent?
The letter that we sent.
I think we heard back through the media that it was ridiculous that these things were being covered but I do not believe that we had a fulsome letter back unless I'm missing something.
Through you, Mayor Nettle, to Councillor Hamilton. Yes, we received a letter back, essentially saying that the legislation would not be changed to allow for the flashing 40s and the cameras to operate at the same time.
Okay, thank you. For me, this is a tough one. I think, again, for me, the cameras themselves aren't problematic. It's how this program is being rolled out across the province and the lack of transparency. Why we don't make the thresholds public and consistent across the province. I don't know why that hasn't been discussed at the government level, and I don't know why we're not removing the flashing light coverings as well. So I understand there's a few bad apples out there that have abused this type of program and used it for revenue generation, which I completely am opposed with. But at the same time, for municipalities that are using it correctly and have, thresholds that are appropriate, and seeing the effect that they're intended to have of slowing people down, to me, there's a real benefit there. So I'm hesitant to phase out this program because the government has decided a few bad apples are going to ruin it for everyone. But at the end of the day, like for me, speeding is one of the #1 complaints I get on a daily basis. And we have a tool that is changing behavior, and we're going to phase it out because, unfortunately, government's not willing to improve how this program is implemented. Being a direct motion, I don't have an opportunity to go back to my residents. I understand the government is saying there will be further investments to invest in other tools and equipment, and of course I want to take advantage of that. But for me to say no more cameras simply because other municipalities aren't using them correctly, I don't think I can support the motion at this time.
Thank you, Councillor. Just on the threshold item, because I think there is an argument that's been very, very public about that, is we're not going to say what it is, but pretend it's 15 kilometers above the limit. If you say to the public, it's 15 kilometers above the limit, you might as well change the actual limit by 15 kilometers and then start enforcing it 1 kilometer over, because what you're doing is you're actually creating you're encouraging not to comply at a certain level. And so that's the argument that's out there as to why there isn't a communication at the threshold.
Yeah, and if I may just follow up, I slightly disagree with that. I think if people know the threshold is...
So first of all, you've spoken already.
Okay.
Second of all, I was only letting you know
Yeah,
that
there's
is
two
the
sides of the
argument that's
coin
been
there.
out there in the other direction. Councillor Harris.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Noddle. I first of all appreciate the way Deputy Mayor Thompson has presented the history and the situation that we're in, and I do appreciate Councillor Hamilton describing the challenges with the rollout. I think she described it exceptionally well, so thank you for that. I guess my questions would be, as we look forward, and we're hearing that legislation coming in the fall, is that correct? Is that the understanding? I was pretty busy today, so but maybe through you, Mayor, to Deputy Mayor Thompson, is it this fall expected?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Harris, and just answering the question. So I would say yes, that is what's being communicated through the media, and only saying I don't believe that they sit until October 20th. So that would be the earliest legislation could be presented, is my understanding.
Thank you. And maybe through you, Mayor Noddle, to, I don't know if it's staff, if had time, in the item it talks about phasing out. I wonder if you could give a little bit of color on what phasing out would look like, if that's fair.
I think that's for the clerk, Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Harris. That would probably be a discussion that we would have amongst our team, how best to phase out the program. But we would definitely have an end date of December 31st, and we can communicate that back to council by memo.
Great, thank you. And as Councillor Hamilton noted, and so did Deputy Mayor Thompson, the goal was to reduce speed, and when I attended AMO in when it was last in London, I attended a CAA presentation, and the 3 top causes for collisions are speed, impairment, and distraction. And with that noted, I wonder, knowing where the province is going, understanding their rationale for why, I'm curious, appreciating that they're going to invest in other methods to calm traffic, and knowing that we've had an expression of interest in red light cameras. I'm wondering if there's a strategy or an opportunity to tie the red light camera to areas, and I give example, and you know this area really well as a student, Marinottle, Bayview and Little. Wouldn't that be a good place for a red light camera, which would actually probably, in some ways, maybe do more good than the ASC camera, because I think going to that light sometimes is a challenge, the rush to the light with all those students that serves Allendale Public School and Innisdale Secondary School. It's a very busy area. So, I think, can we advocate, maybe use that part of the strategy, maybe to advocate for red light camera support in areas, because everybody who has a school has an area where there's a stoplight near a school that is a high need area. Thank you.
So I'll answer for staff, which is they're going to come back with a strategy on that. And I think they've heard you this evening that is an area that you would like it to be considered as part of the strategy. And Mr. CEO, can you just confirm that for me?
Yes, Mayor Nuttall, heard loud and clear.
Thank you, sir. Okay, who did I say was next? Councillor Corser, I think, then Councillor Rietma, and then Councillor Kungle.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. I am really disappointed that the province has come forward with this, considering that we have been very upfront and open about how we're doing things. We have 4 cameras within, I've been Googling like mad over here since this has come up. We have 4 cameras in our city, and I know that there is cities, towns that are a fraction of the size of the city of Barrie that have 4+ cameras. So I understand how these can maybe be abused or being used for lining pockets, but that's not what we're doing in the city of Barrie. That is not what we set out to do. We were very, very particular in where these cameras were going. We did studies, if I could, through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Ms. Banfield. How did we come to the conclusion to put these cameras in these locations?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, that we did speed data and ranked the data according to which community safety zones had the highest percentage of that 85th percentile of traffic traveling above the 40 kilometer an hour speed limit.
And if I may as well, these cameras were these cameras put in place with the sole purpose of making school zones safe?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, the intention was to slow drivers down going through school community safety zones.
Okay, and we also reached out to the province with the issues that we had with the flashing lights. And my understanding is the province came back and refused to uncover the flashing lights in school zones. Sorry, through you,
Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser. Yes, the correspondence came back from the province, as I mentioned earlier, noting that they weren't going to change the legislation to allow both at the same time.
So to me, this is a problem the specific problem with the flashing lights that may be not publicly acceptable is not a problem that we created. It is a problem that the province wouldn't fix. And I don't see how why it would be beneficial at all to the safety of our school zones and our children walking to school that it feels like we're trading in this program for red light cameras, and red light cameras would not be wouldn't work in all school zones. I don't think that there is several locations in the city of Barrie that do not have red lights, but they have a lot of speeders in front of schools. We've used restraint. We're responsible of how we use these cameras. Cameras don't just ticket drivers, they change drivers' behaviors. And as mentioned before, as we discussed, we were asked, Ms. Banfield, that is the findings that we've had, correct?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Corser, that's correct.
For every parent and caregiver out there, I cannot support this because we are trying very hard to get kids to be active, to walk to school, to unclutter school zones. It's a constant complaint in many of our wards that the parking in front of schools, the congestion around schools, the safety of kids going to schools. And we have been incredibly responsible how we rolled this out. And it's just not logical. And I can't vote for something that's just completely illogical and goes against what is proven to be safe, to create safer school zones. And the province says they're going to fund us, potentially fund us for replacements of these speed cameras for more different traffic calming things. And I say, show me the money. I say, we'll turn them off when we receive the money, because until such a time that we actually have safe school zones, what happens when we turn the cameras off and the city knows there's bad actors in our own city that are going to now, there won't be any reason for them to slow down in a school zone when they're late for work or irresponsible. So yeah, I can't see why we'd be shutting down these cameras without any kind of traffic calming or funding for traffic calming to replace them. So I cannot support this at all. Thank you.
Okay, we'll go now to Councillor Riepma.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I think the Premier's been pretty clear that he intends to remove speed cameras. And I think with the greatest of respect, I don't think the Premier is correct in this one. And I think that all municipalities are being hit by this because some municipalities have abused it. And I think that's too bad. Nobody likes to get a ticket, but in our case, I think that we have acted very responsibly, and we've certainly seen traffic slow down. And when traffic slows down, streets are safer, especially in our school zones. And the traffic even keeps slowing down after the cameras are gone. So it does change behavior. It certainly hasn't been a cash grab on our part, and any money that does come in, we spend on road safety improvements, crosswalks and speed bumps and raised intersections. So I'm going to reluctantly support this because I think that's it's in the cards anyway, what's going to happen. I'm hoping that when the province passes the legislation, that they will continue to permit speed cameras under certain circumstances and certain rules, and maybe the rules have to be tightened up. That I'm fine with that. And I'm hoping actually in my dreams that someday we will not require any speed cameras anywhere simply because nobody is ever going to speed. But that day hasn't come yet.
Thank you, Councillor Riepma. And I have Councillor Kungle, and then I've got Councillor Morales, then I've got Councillor Harvey.
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Nuttall, I have some comments and maybe a couple of questions. I might speak at length a little bit about this, but I'll try and just make my points clear. You know, it was back in April we discussed this. By May, we decided to move it from a pilot to a program, I believe, that had full consensus of council. So I don't see anyone, whether you motion for or against this evening, as not believing that this was something appropriate to invest in. I will support the motion, and it's absolutely not in any reference to not really valuing this as a piece of technology and infrastructure. AMO, within the past couple of months, just published an advocacy statement around automated speed enforcement. There is evidence-based information around the role this has to play in improving road safety. I do not question that. I do hear my constituents who really, are reaching out of the best intentions, because it's very hard to change a norm of a flashing light in a community for however long that's been in place to a major shift in the way in which something operates. It was highly disappointing that I think while we got a clear message that that wouldn't be corrected, I think it could have made a big difference to maybe how this program might be viewed. So I agree it's about maybe the implementation of it, and I think there may be some learnings here to take away. But again, completely value this, fully support its role. But I think we've moved from what we can control or influence on this. And so I think it is strategic of us to be putting this on the table, to understand that the outcome is likely going to be out of our hands, and to put a plan in place, and to best position where possible. And then I don't think it's a giving up of something, but in hand with this motion is the conversation around the red light cameras. I don't think it's replacing it. Specifically, we've had that as a separate motion, a separate item, to be clear with the public that it's a separate type of technology. I'm very keen to see that this is something maybe we double down on in Ward 3 specifically, even on Cundles. I've got major light systems at the intersections in proximity to 4 schools, if not out front of schools, within feet. So that will be things that I'm looking at around maybe a heavier investment from that piece of technology. I know residents are looking for a middle ground on this, so I do want to balance that. I don't see this, as a, I do see this from a practicality standpoint about getting in front of something that likely will change and put a good plan in place to look at other resources. Outside of that, I think my questions for staff that I'll just mention, but I'll assume that it'll be taken as part of the strategy coming back, that come to mind, which is, I can't recall if we leased or purchased the equipment. I recall that it was quite expensive. Is there a cost recovery to be had as we cancel this? And if not, just being aware of that. If there is a cost recovery, ideally, I'll look to kind of how we make sure that's also part of how we look at a calming. We built a program around this that was quite robust. And so my bigger question is, as we move away from this program and we look at, building up capacity for other systems, what shifts? Or do we still keep the infrastructure, whether that's the bigger piece of just how we've operated and resourced it, or will that change as well? So it doesn't need to be answered tonight if you don't have it in hand, but those will be the things I'd be looking at after this is changed.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you, Councillor. I think there was a number of questions in there, so Madam Clerk, if I can walk with you through this a little bit. The cost of the program, including the procurement of the actual cameras, what was the total cost, just in an estimated number for us? Sorry, Ms. Banfield.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. So approximately the update that we gave council in May said that the entire program was about 1.2 million in terms of the revenue, and it cost about 700,000 to run the program. And so that left a variance of around 500,000. So
I would it's probably going to be difficult for us to go ask for the cost back when we've made money on it. And let's see what the final is, because maybe there's costs related to breaking with technology, et cetera. I have no idea. But I'm guessing we end up in the good on it. And then in terms of how we move forward, I think the second part of the question was, like, how does it relate to the red light camera or any of the infrastructure that we have from ASC? I think that the clerk and Ms. Banfield are working through that. It's not the same technology. The technology on the red light, as I understand it, is laser or infrared or something like that, versus a camera taking a shot of a license plate. But I could be wrong. Maybe that's the technology we get before we get into the actual piece that sends out the tickets. So I think there's a lot that just needs to be figured out. And maybe that can come back in the report once we have the information on the red light cameras. Okay, I'm going to go over to Councillor Morales and then Councillor Harvey.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. To staff, this is a very small detail, but if this passes, can staff change the name of our ASC reserve, the actual name, on their own as a housekeeping issue, or do you need council direction? I just don't want to keep talking. If this passes, I don't want to keep talking about ASE. Okay, good. That wasn't a ridiculous question.
Yeah, it's,
Sorry to staff. I don't know if that goes to Ms. Banfield or Ms. Cook. Nobody wants it to.
yeah, I think the answer was yes, was that?
Oh, yes? Sorry. Thank you. A quick yes. And another question, how much money have we gotten from this program approximately so far? I know it's a fluctuating number.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Morales, again, the latest report back to council was about 1.2 million for the whole project, approximately 700,000 in cost to operate the program, with about around 500,000 in excess that has been used for other community safety measures and held in a reserve.
In excess. That is an excellent word to use for that question. Thank you, Ms. Manfield. And how many total locations have the ASEs been installed in throughout the program? So not counting duplicates if there was a duplicate location.
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Morales, there have not been duplicate locations. We did a roster according to the data collection that I had explained earlier, and we've just been working through that rotation. The cameras, keeping in mind that for the majority of the program, we only had 2 cameras that were relocated, and now this is the first installation of 4. We have had them in 20 discrete locations across the city.
Perfect. Ms. James Reed, if this motion passes, would it be possible, again, without an amendment to this, to put out a very clear language, like very succinct, clear language press release? Because I think, as Deputy Mayor Thompson and others have alluded, the public perception, the public trust, the vibe check from the rollout of the program, and then the canceling of it. There are going to be, in my opinion, there's going to be a lot of people who live in areas around school zones that go, if red lights cameras replace this, people can still speed between red lights. Even if they put 2 red light cameras at once, it's the speeding. I'm thinking of Dean Avenue in front of the library. I'm thinking of other locations, Ashford, between Ward 9 and Ward 10, and obviously many in the city. So is it possible, without a further amendment, to put out a very clear, doesn't have to be overnight either, but a very clear press release to aid in the efforts on getting the message accurately?
Through you, Mayor Nuttall, to Councillor Morales, absolutely, we will do that. And as you said, probably not within the next 24 hours, but we will get that information ready and update our website as well for residents to have the access to the information.
Okay, perfect. And in closing, Mayor Nuttall, a lot of great points were said. I really like Councillor Congo's point about putting a plan in place. I also believe in that we kind of start, and this is not a criticism, it's just an observation about little situations like this where we've needed maybe kind of a nuance with the province, but we need to kind of start getting, I think, recognition from the province on municipal matters that we're not like other municipalities. This one obviously comes to mind. One for me is council approved the CHIA request for the fairgrounds, and it was sent back to us. They made the decision. I would have thought another decision was going to be made, and I'm sure there's a couple of others. Now, that's not to say they haven't recognized and supported us during the ice storm cleanup, during the state of emergency. So there's many other examples on the other end, but there's unique examples like this where the province applying a Barrie kind of approach would definitely benefit residents a lot. And politically in the past, I haven't been afraid to kind of try to walk through a wall on issues and kind of stick to the principle of the matter, but the inevitability of something like this, and then not having any cash or minimal cash, or making that point that I just said, improving the discussion, the communication channels of the province, I think is definitely pushing me towards supporting this. But again, very unfortunate situation. I think the red light cameras will be very effective. I think the school zone cameras with the calibration disclosures, which a few other nuances have made them frustrating, but I do believe in their effectiveness. So, and obviously not changing provincial legislation to allow the flashing of the lights. That was so frustrating. For everyone was so frustrating, and definitely was one of the, I would say, top 5 factors that set this to be where it's at. in terms of public trust. So I'll let the rest of my colleagues speak. Thank you, Mayor Nettle.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Harvey.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Obviously, I've been a little vocal about this in previous meetings when it's come up. And it's not that the cameras aren't effective. They are effective. There's no two buts about that. It's all about the threshold that is set. And again, using kind of what a standard threshold is that most of the other municipalities have used, because I can assure you, I am not aware of anybody getting tickets for 5 kilometers over here in the City of Barrie. However, even with the threshold that appears to be set, that most of the other municipalities are using, it is much lower than what a police officer would be issuing tickets at. And I think that's where some of the residents have problems with it. And the big issue that came to light with myself was 2 different seniors in my ward reached out to me, where by the time they received the first ticket, there was already 3, 4, 5 more coming because they had no idea the camera was even there. Now, again, that's on them. But when it then goes to court and there's no interest from the prosecutor in working with these people the way they would with other Highway Traffic Act offenses, in pleading things down to a lower fine or whatever the case may be, that I found to be a problem with this rollout. But overall, I'll be quite honest with you, I think our staff did a terrific job in rolling this out. We only have 4 cameras for the size of our city, which is nothing to be concerned about, whereas you've got some small towns that have got like 3 times the cameras that we have, and you can't drive down a street without having to worry about your speed every split second because of the volume of cameras. And I don't think that was ever the intent that any municipality could have or should have had, because this should never be about revenue generating. It's all about public safety. And obviously there is some money that's being made because the fees are not 100% used up by the admin side of things, where you can use it for those other positive things with road calming measures. But I think too, I really agree with Councillor Rietma. Like, we're getting ahead of the curve here. You know the writing's on the wall. The Premier's been quite clear the last few weeks that he's going to be pulling the pin on this, whether municipalities like it or not. And I think getting ahead of the curve is a smart way to do it. It allows our staff some additional time to transition. And with the flashing lights, that's been a constant topic of conversation. And the reason those flashing lights are problematic is because the prosecutor's got to be able to prove that those flashing lights were actually working. Well, the cameras don't have the ability to actually record that unless you set up another set of cameras down the road to be able to show that they were flashing at that exact second that the ticket was issued. And we all know the flashing lights do malfunction from time to time, because most of them, especially the ones in my ward, they're all solar-based, run off a battery. And especially in the winter, when you don't have the same volume of sunlight, they'll tend to malfunction, which then causes a problem. And that's why some of these other municipalities have actually gotten away from the yellow lights, and none of their school zones have the flashing lights, and they will just have the signs that indicate either it's 40 all the time or it's 40 during school hours, which solves that problem too. But I think obviously people here in Barrie have gotten used to the yellow flashing lights in our school zones, although not all of our school zones have that, because I've got a few school zones in my ward that are 40 all the time. But I do support this, because I think getting ahead of the curve, because it's pretty clear the writing's on the wall. Like, they're going to be canceling this program in the near future, I suspect. And I don't think we were one of them that caused the red light to go off with them, but there's been a couple of municipalities that have excessively used this for the wrong reasons, I think.
Any other comments or members of council? Councillor Negussi.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Well, this is a tricky one, but I believe red light cameras serve the same purpose in making our roads safe as well. So it also keep the bigger picture in mind exploring other traffic calming measures and making the province support is a great idea. And for that reason, I'm in support of this motion.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other members, or is that's everyone? Oh, it's not everyone, but it is now.
You might as well.
Councillor Nixon.
I don't want to be the only one. Yeah. I will support this as well. I agree completely with many of the comments that we've just heard. I think to not support it, you're kind of sending a signal out there that, we do what we want and we don't have to do what those folks at Queen's Park want us to do. And that's kind of makes you feel good, but at the end of the day, it's just not the reality of this situation. And I think that there are many other measures, and I agree with Councillor Harvey. By doing this now, we will get ahead of the curve, and we will be able to explore options that hopefully will be provide just as or safer streets than we would have had with the cameras. It's not that anyone around this table is anti-safety, but certainly it's been, we've been told so many times, and there's so many examples of how it's just not fair. So, let's, as Councillor Harvey says, and Councillor Rima, let's get ahead of the curve and start looking at other options. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Nixon. I'm going to, look, I've got a few things to say on this because, quite frankly, I think that we did conduct ourselves in a responsible manner when it came to how we unveiled and then executed the speed cameras in the City of Barrie. I have 2 kids. The province has 444. That doesn't include the regional or county roads. So they've got, I don't know, call it 455 or something like that. And sometimes my younger daughter ends up paying the price for my older son's mistakes and vice versa. And it's never fair. It's absolutely never fair to the one who hasn't done something. But I think we've all seen that situation, whether it's on a team or a classroom or a municipality in the City of Barrie. And as I look at it, like the revenue generation from this, we were on pace for like $1 million a camera a year. So that's what we're on pace for. And I don't think that we were excessive either in the speed that it was implemented at. And I don't think we were excessive in the fines that were going out. I think that there were places that were excessive in the amount of cameras they put out. And I'm unaware of the municipalities that were 5 over or whatever it was. That just wasn't what we dealt with here. But this is one tool in the toolbox. There was traffic calming measures before safety cameras, or photo cameras, radar cameras, whatever you call them. And there's going to be afterwards. And I was Googling, no offense to whoever speaking at the time, but I was Googling while we were having this debate. And it struck me, I was 10 years old. And I remembered this from then, when the first set of the cameras were killed. Right? It was the Bob Rae government then lost an election and then cameras were removed. And it was an election issue at that point. Well, here we are 30 years later, literally 30 years later, having the exact same conversation. And I pray to God no government's going to bring them back if they're going to do away with them, which we've heard they are doing away with them. Because what it does is it creates this like instability inside of how we're doing our job. If we'd known there was going to be an issue with these cameras, we would have just gone down the other traffic calming measure road instead of this one, right? But I think we also have to track and go, okay, the same government that introduced the cameras in 2019 is now taking them away. So they feel like they've learned lessons on this. And I think we should, help maybe process that a little bit. I don't think they were learned in Barrie, but I think they were learned in other places. And Councilor Course, I just want to, one point, we don't get to choose when the legislation comes down to remove these, which the Premier's already told everyone is coming. We don't get to choose taking them down or leaving them up. The province of Ontario, our parents get to determine that. So we can't just keep doing it until they offer the funding. I hope the funding comes in advance, like you do, but yeah, show me the money. Jerry Maguire. But the problem is we don't have the power to do that, right? Like, I get what you're saying, and I'm not saying your feeling is wrong, but we just don't have the power for that. So the question is, what do we do now? And I've said this to a couple of members of council. It's like, I think we should be going where the puck's going, not where it's been. And weirdly, Councilor Morales and I had, Councilor Morales was doing a bunch of work on Madeline Drive about traffic calming measures. And staff then came back and said, no, let's go this way. And I think we dealt with this in the spring. And there's some pretty low cost ways for us to really do something about it. And I've heard nothing, I don't know about you, but I've heard nothing but positive about those. So if the province is going to fund a bunch of those for us, that's a good thing, because they've turned out to be effective. They're permanent in the sense that they're always there, unless they're the temporary ones and they come back in the summertime. And so I think that's where we need to turn our heads. And so the go where the puck's going, not where it's been, is what I think we're being asked by the movers of the motion tonight. And I certainly will support that as well, and do support that. I think there's actually some more fundamental questions that we should be asking to our planning department about school safety. And I haven't had this conversation in advance, Ms. Banfield, so I'm not even going to ask you about it. I'm just going to highlight it, and then maybe we can have another conversation another day at Community Safety Committee, Chair Morales. But the idea that we're putting all these schools on arterial roads and then we're not able to actually use the full set of tools to enforce it is kind of scary. I'll give you an example. You say in Ferndale, you say Mapleton, you say, we could go around the table, Ann Street, everyone's got them, right? But it's still happening. So I'll go to Councilor Morales' ward, where there's a school being built. Is it built already, or is it being built right now?
It will be built.
It will be built, so it hasn't been built yet. It's a really long groundbreaking. So that school is going on Mapleview Drive East, which I'm guessing is in the top 3 streets in the city, right? And it's between the 400 and 30,000 people. Entire Ward 10 and Ward 9 essentially have to go past the school. We kind of have to get real about what this planning looks like if we're reducing the tools at the table, or the tool belt, I guess would be a better analogy. We need to start sitting at the table and figuring out where school sites should go, because it doesn't make any sense for it to be on arterial roads if there aren't. Otherwise, we got to put a police officer there 24/7, which we just don't have the resources for. We know that. So I think there's some bigger questions we need to ask ourselves. This is over. This is done. Premier's made it clear. Let's go after funding. If there's funding to shut down ASC programs, let's take advantage of it. I think it's very unlikely, because it's going to be pretty difficult to claim that we lost money. And when it comes to red light cameras, Ms. Banfield, I believe you have some information for us on, I believe, Mapleview Drive and Mapleview Drive East and Bayview Drive, not near the school. We're not trying to conflate these issues. Can you tell us what happened in a 72-hour period?
Mayor Nuttall, thank you for the question. So when there was the initial, just to back up a bit, we did staff to take a look at how many collisions there have been in a 3-year period across all of our intersections, and came up with a number of 32. There were 32 intersections that had more than 2 accidents across the city. And we used that as data to start collecting the camera data to show what exactly would, how many of those are red light infractions, if you will. And this isn't necessarily new. The city actually, back in 2016 or so, back about 10 years ago, had asked staff to look into red light cameras at the time. And at that time, staff presented to council red light infractions around 3 per day in many of the locations. Now, when we looked at some of the early data coming back, so Mapleview Drive West, going southbound to the southbound ramp, we're looking at, in a 72-hour period, was 135. So that ended up being like 5 per hour versus we used to see 3 per day. The northbound ramp is about 4 per hour. Bayfield and Livingstone is about 7 per hour. So again, just to kind of track back what staff, as I said, about 10 years ago presented to council were numbers around 3 infractions per day. And the preliminary data, and we haven't finished all of the locations, but the data that we have coming in is showing much higher rates.
So thank you for that. So if it was a revenue tool, those who view it as a revenue tool, I think there's other places to find your revenue that's related to infractions. For those of you that it wasn't a revenue tool and it was a slow down tool, I'm not saying it's apple for apple, but I am saying that there's other tools to use. And that's where I think we need to turn our heads ASAP so that we can get the funding to be able to institute them. So I'd encourage each member of council to have that thought about their ward and have that thought about their school zones, because I think we should have a pretty fulsome conversation around Community Safety Committee in the coming month here, if that's okay with everyone. All right, I have talked for far too long, and we'll call the vote. All those in
Recorded
favor,
vote, please.
Recorded vote has been requested by Councillor Hamilton. Madam Clerk, it's over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Nettle. Councillor Rietma.
Yes.
Councillor Nixon.
Yes.
Councillor Kungle.
Yes.
Councillor Corser.
No.
Deputy Mayor Thompson.
Yes.
Councillor Nagusi.
Yes.
Councillor Harvey.
Yes.
Councillor Harris.
Yes.
Councillor Morales.
Yes.
And Councillor Hamilton.
No.
And Mayor Nettle.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, we'll move on to the inquiries. Any inquiries of our public servants this evening? And announcements. Do we have announcements this evening? I got a ton. So, Councillor Kungle has just 2.
Thank you. Just 2 quick ones. Just wanted to say it'll be my last opportunity, I think, in person before he retires. But Dr. Gardner, as most of you know, has been our Simcoe Muskoka District Health Unit Medical Officer of Health and CEO for over 20 years. He is retiring, and we were able to bring community together both across the region of Simcoe and Muskoka and provincially to celebrate that legacy. So it's really just an opportunity. It was nice to be there on behalf of City of Barrie as well. As a health unit, I have the privilege of sitting on that board, sharing that with Nagusi, and being in the company of other members of council. So thank you to those. But just wanted to say, as an opportunity publicly, if you've missed that communication, my appreciation and thanks and goodwill forward to him on his retirement, and deep gratitude for his service. And then lastly, I think my other one is tomorrow we have a flag raising for Franco-Ontarian Day, and that's at 10 a.m. at City Hall. I will be there at the flagpole. So just wanted to make sure people saw that there's lots of great stuff happening, many events, many flag raisings, but for those that would like to join, that's at 10 a.m. here at City Hall on Collier Street for the flag raising.
Thank you, Councillor Kungle. Any other announcements around the table? I'm seeing none, so I'll jump in. Thank you for going tomorrow to the Franco-Ontario. That's always a fun one. There'll be like 400 students here, and when I speak French, they don't understand it. So I now give that to you, to merci beaucoup, to do your best. But you know what? The try is respected, and they're very grateful for it. So it's a great group of people coming in. The City of Barrie is once again inviting students to participate in our Student Mayor Program. The program's a unique opportunity for youth to experience municipal government firsthand. Each term, one elementary, one high school student will join us here in the council chambers to observe and participate in 3 consecutive council meetings. Students will also have the chance to attend community events, tour city facilities, and engage with civic leaders. This program is a chance to inspire future public leaders and give students a voice in local decision making. I encourage schools across Barrie to nominate students who are curious, engaged, and eager to learn about municipal government. To reserve a term of office for the 2025-2026 Student Mayor Program, please contact the Mayor's office at officeofthemayor@barrie.ca or speak with your school principal. Information has already been sent to the schools across the City of Barrie. On September 21st, the new Barrie-Allendale Transit Terminal opened its doors. That was this past Sunday, and that's at 20 Essa Road, basically right at the GO train station and Allendale station. To align with the new location, adjustments have been made to Route 8. So for details about these changes, you can visit myridebarrie.ca. This week, the City of Barrie launched its 2026 budget process with a phone survey to a random selection of residents from all 10 wards. To learn more about the city's budget, you can visit barrie.ca/budget. Doors Open Barrie. Did you already give this one? No. Oh, you missed it. Can't believe you missed that. I'm telling everyone. Doors Open Barrie is taking place this Saturday, September 27th from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., offering residents and visitors the opportunity to explore some of Barrie's historic properties, cultural buildings, and other notable sites. For details about Doors Open Barrie, the sites and activities, you can visit barrie.ca/doorsopen. As there's no other business except for the confirmation bylaw, Deputy Mayor, I will pass it over to you.
Thank you, Mayor Nuttall. Moved by myself, second by Councillor Kungo. Leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be read a first, second, and third time on this day, and finally pass Bill 108.
It's moved by Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Kungo, that leave be granted to introduce the following bill, and this bill be ready first, second, and third time this day, and finally pass Bill 108. Since there's no questions or comments on this, I'm going to call the vote. All those in favor? It carries unanimously, and that means we have a motion from Deputy Mayor Thompson, seconded by Councillor Rietma, to adjourn. All those in favor? And it